The next day, I confronted my parents, spilling the truth about Sarah's affair with Ethan and their years-long deception. Their faces froze in disbelief. True to form, Mom initially defended Ethan, insisting her perfect son wouldn't betray me. Determined to prove it, I asked them to stay silent while I called Ethan in their presence, tricking him into thinking it was private. When Ethan answered, I confronted him. He denied everything at first, dodging blame. But when I said Sarah confessed, he turned on her, calling her untrustworthy and boasting he couldn't help if women found him attractive, claiming he was the better brother. I warned I'd expose him to everyone. Ethan scoffed, saying no one would believe me since he was the family favorite. I smirked, thanking him for admitting it, revealing our parents had heard. Ethan stammered, trying to backtrack. Mom, stunned, demanded answers. Ethan fumbled through excuses, blaming Sarah and anyone but himself. For years, I'd endured his cruelty, but now the truth was exposed. Seeing Mom's disappointment and anger at her once-favored son felt strangely validating. In that heated moment, Dad, usually stoic, couldn't hide his disgust. He took the phone and addressed Ethan. "Ethan," he began, voice heavy with betrayal, "you didn't just hurt your brother. You destroyed our family's trust. Sleeping with his wife, even after their marriage, is unforgivable. I raised you to value loyalty and respect, but your actions spit on those principles." He paused, letting his words sear into Ethan. "Your selfishness and disrespect for your brother's marriage have broken our family's bonds. Your choices have consequences, and you've lost our trust. Your mother and I share some responsibility for the person you've turned into, but we're done excusing your actions. Starting now, you're cut off from the college savings I set aside for you. You'll need to find a way to cover your university costs yourself. I'm also halting all support for your lifestyle. Do you think seducing married women makes you more mature? Let's see how you fare without my financial backing." Throughout this, I kept my composure. Though I wanted to yell at James, witnessing my dad discipline him brought the ultimate satisfaction. I had unmasked his real character, and it was obvious he hadn't anticipated the fallout. My mother, despite James's relentless excuses, kept defending him, but my father abruptly ended the call, silencing James's attempts to rationalize his behavior. Later, my mom came to me and hugged me tightly. It had been ages since we shared such closeness, and in that embrace, there was a silent acknowledgement and support amid the family chaos. She apologized for doubting me all these years. My 14-year-old self could never have pictured this moment, vindicated and held by my mother. Afterward, my dad assisted me in hiring a skilled attorney to divorce Sarah. She and her lawyer tried to play hardball, demanding alimony since I out-earned her, but her infidelity tipped the scales in my favor. We also ran a paternity test, confirming James was indeed Liam's father. The revelation stung worse than learning of Sarah's unfaithfulness. I was livid that the boy I'd cherished and raised wasn't mine. Still, I chose to stay resilient. Sarah pleaded with me to keep visiting Liam, arguing he shouldn't suffer for their choices, but I couldn't face him. He reminded me too much of James, and it fueled my resentment. Once the divorce was settled, a wave of freedom hit as I moved into my own bachelor apartment. Living solo felt strange after marrying young and never tasting independence, but my self-reliant nature helped me adjust quickly, and I relished the change. 2 weeks ago, my dad called to say he was rethinking his will, unwilling to leave anything to James. My dad's resolve is unshakable, and once he decided to sever ties, he held firm. James tried contacting our parents and even showed up at their door, pleading for mercy, but they turned him away. Even my mother, who usually caved to James's outbursts, seemed fed up, though it must have pained her deeply. James never messaged me to apologize, showing his regret was only about losing our parents' support. Dad told me he intended to bequeath everything to me, ensuring James couldn't challenge it later. He'd leave James just $1. My eyes widened in disbelief. My dad had toiled his whole life, and with his assets, retirement, and insurance, it totaled nearly $2 million. The only stipulation in his will was that if my dad passed before my mom, she could stay in their home, though ownership would pass to me. I had no issue with this, wanting to care for my mom in her later years. Somehow, James learned of this, and unable to reach our parents, called me yesterday, seeking reconciliation. He explained he was struggling with college and that, after Sarah learned Liam's paternity, she'd been hounding him for child support. He said he was broke, hunting for part-time work, but finding none, and begged me to plead with our family for a new start since he desperately needed aid. I laughed outright and told him I was through with him. I reminded him he should have considered the repercussions before sleeping with my wife and fathering her child. James argued I was being unjust and that Sarah shared the blame, which I conceded. I pointed out that I'd ended things with her, making her his burden now. He shouldn't be whining to me about her or Liam, given these were his own doing. James raised his voice, but I cut in. noting he was no longer the family's golden boy but the outcast who betrayed his brother's wife. At that, James broke down, crying about how everyone, grandparents, relatives, had turned against him. While true, it was no longer my problem. I told him we were finished and to never contact me again as I no longer saw him as my brother. Since then, I've replayed the exchange in my head. Despite my loathing for James, I'd never heard him cry since childhood. I won't deny it stung a little to see him so lost. So, I'm here wondering if I should discuss this with my parents or if I'd be wrong to ignore it. Update 1. Hi all, many have asked why I've cut ties with my son Liam, even calling me heartless. I need to clarify. I can't raise another man's child. This isn't a stepson scenario. I was convinced Liam was mine, only to learn he's James's. The discovery crushed me, and I wept for days. My main reason for avoiding Liam is that I want Sarah out of my life. Staying linked to her son would let her worm back in, and I need distance. You might see me as cold or self-centered, but I can't face him again, at least not for a long while. Update 2. Most of you guessed my mom tipped James off about Dad's will change, prompting his call. I confronted her in front of Dad, and she broke down, saying I'd punished James enough and he'd learned. Dad sternly told her that if she thought his actions were excusable, he couldn't stay married to her, as he'd never forgive such treachery. That shut her up. Dad warned that if she ever spoke to James again and we found out, she'd have to leave. As I said, my dad's will is ironclad. Hopefully, she'll learn from this. Update 3. Reddit. It's been 5 months since my last post. My bond with my parents has grown stronger lately. Dad and I hit the golf course every weekend, and he treats me more like a friend than a son. Though Mom misses James, she's kept her distance. The latest on James came from my cousin, who said he's been begging everyone for cash and had to quit college due to unpaid fees. He's now living with Sarah, working part-time as a mechanic, and raising Liam together, which I suppose is positive. I never bring up James with my parents, and they avoid the topic too. For those asking, I'm doing great. I got a promotion at work 2 months ago, boosting my income. I'm not dating yet, needing time to heal, and I've started therapy. Let's see how it goes. Thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please do and hit the bell for more shocking real-life tales around you.